Hey guys, it's History Man over here, also known as Troy, and today I want to make a video about how to preserve your newspaper and magazines, whatever. So, um, so I just want to show you. Also, I got the magazines too because I want to show you what's difference between a newspaper and a magazine. So we'll get those two in a second. So, um, where to start? Alright, so the number one thing is how you take care of these things. The very most important thing is you need to bag them. So I got I think this is like 100 bags on here, and make sure to Ziploc too, so air doesn't come into to the newspapers, because air would also affect the paper. So air is not really good. And one thing is air makes it brown too. I think it makes it brown, so that's the reason why air is it's important. It makes it brown, but of course these papers are most of the papers I have are brown already. But I think air makes them brown. So um, if you have a paper that's in really good shape, make sure you close close Ziploc the Ziploc like bags. And sorry guys, that was my computer. That Ziploc like bags. So make sure you get these, and you always have to measure the size of the paper. So of course this one doesn't fit. It can't close because it's on top of the line where it closes. So you always have to measure your papers. Um I don't have bags for that right now, but I will make sure to get some of the whatever the size of this paper, I will get that bag for it. Same thing with this. This one's too long, I've noticed. This one's from 1914, and it's really out of the box. I mean, it's really out of the paper. But there's another way. If you don't want to get bags, you don't have to get bags for these things. You can also get archival boxes, which, like I said, you have to measure the paper to either to fit on the archival boxes. So archival boxes are good too as well. Archival boxes are good, not just newspapers, but just paper in general. Like if you have like an autograph of a famous person or somebody, and you want to, make it good as new, an archival box is a really good option. Um, so I suggest if you don't want to use bags, you can also use an archival box, which are really good. Now, next thing is what I do. I repair my paper. So I repair my newspapers. So I use and do not use any Scotch tape. Don't use Scotch tape for these types of things. If it's a magazine, maybe yes, but I don't really use Scotch tape. I mostly use this tape, and this tape you could it's a really special tape for these types of things, like archival tape. I think this is what this is. Yeah, archival tape. This is archival tape. You can buy them on Amazon. Um, I don't know how much for, but I think it's like it depends on the size of these things. So it really depends on the size, which one you are getting. But archival tape is the best option to repair something like this. If it's like small tears or like these, this one is from 1886. So if there's like any small tears of the paper, then you could repair it. But if it's like this one's in really bad shape. This one's from 1891. It's in really bad shape. You can tell because there's pieces all over it on the paper. I highly suggest I would not even touch it. I was thinking about repairing the line because the paper is in two. You can see it's in two, but I tried doing that and it was a catastrophe. So I just did not touch it. I just left it the way it was, and just do not touch it. So if your paper is like this and it's and it's really bad and it's flaking, I highly suggest just leave it alone. Put it in the bag, just leave it alone. So I highly suggest that. If it's like this, right? If it's like this, and you see like small tears and whatnot, then you can repair it. And of course this is from 1886, so it's not now. People think that, oh, okay, why the paper is white? It's fake. It's not fake. It's real because this is post Civil War. This is during the industrial age, so I get why you know that this could be a fake. You know what I mean? This could be a fake. It's not brown. Well, actually, before the Civil War, I have a paper from 1859. Let me get that out. This is my oldest newspaper in the collection. Hold on, let me drop the camera real quick and get it out. So this paper is my oldest. It's from 1859, and if you touch it, it's very soft. Now I'm going to tell you how to touch a paper like this, or pretty much any paper in general. But it's very soft. The paper is very soft compared to the other papers I have. Is the reason why is because it was made very differently before the Civil War. So if you got American Revolutionary War papers or colonial papers or paper that's from the early 1800s, you would also have this feeling because the paper that at the time was made very, very carefully than compare to the papers after the Civil War when America was starting to industrialize and all of that. Well, it did industrialize, but you know what I'm talking about. So America to industrialize. But some papers actually copied the same way until I would say the 1890s. So this is not fake. This is a real paper. So it didn't make this. It probably made the same way, but until the 1890s, because this one's from 1891 and it's brown and it's really bad. It's in really bad shape. But and I think I have a paper from the late 1890s that are like the same thing. So that's some information there. So if you have a paper like this that's in really good shape, like this is from the 1920s, from 1925, and it's in really good shape. And if it has less tears, then just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. And just, don't do anything repairs on it. If it's like if you touch it, maybe if you have like a small little tear, then repair it. I would say repair it. Now, handling a paper, you could use gloves, but I don't really in my opinion, I don't really like plastic gloves. I like to use cotton gloves on these things, because if you use plastic gloves, those blue gloves, if depends how long you use the paper and it needs more repair, your hands are gonna sweat and you probably need a break from it, then come right back up again, and probably use another one or something. I don't want to do that. So I think cotton gloves are much better to finish your whole repair. Depends on the condition on the paper. Or if you don't want to use gloves, you could actually just wash your hands and read the paper like that. Because if you use oil, because the oils from your hands could really destroy the paper. It's slowly but surely it will destroy the paper. So don't read the paper if it's unclean. Don't use the paper if it's unclean. So magazines. Magazines are not really a pain to use to preserve. The paper is much thicker than compare to newspapers, so it takes a really long time for them to deteriorate. That's the reason why you see old Life magazines from the 40s and 50s. Most of them are in really great shape because it's really thick. It's not soft. As papers, they were made very, very, very quickly. I bet same thing as magazines, but I'm not too sure on that. But newspapers were made very, very quickly, and they tried to get as much sales as possible. But papers like this took their time. So magazines are not really a big pain. Just put plastic in them, and and if it's torn, then just use the tape. use tape. You can use some Scotch tape too with this too. It doesn't really look horrible, but don't put Scotch tape on the papers. So you don't do that. So, yeah. So yeah. Hold on. I want to show you this too. And make sure to tape on the spine, because you have to tape the spine because that it supports the magazine. Or the book. It supports the book or the magazine. So I mean, you can you have to tape whatever that supports it, because if you don't, then you don't really have a magazine anymore. So that's pretty much, you don't really have a magazine anymore if you don't really support it. Now this one, I found this at an antique store, so I noticed that this is torn from the page. So I noticed that this was torn from the page, and it just doesn't really look good. So I'll try my best to actually repair that, but I just doubt it. So, or I could just no choice, and it's just leave it where it is. So yes. So magazines are not really a big deal to compared to newspapers, but I highly suggest just repair them, just in case if they're torn or whatever. Now, just in case if you get one from eBay, you might want to say, how do I know if it's real? How do I know if it's fake? Well, this is what I do. So if you want to claim that your stuff is, real, here's a good option. So you have to look at the staple. If it's a staple, if it's rusted a bit, you see the staple, it's rusted and it has still in it and stuff like that. So if it has like rust, that's how I think that this is a real paper. It's not a real reproduction. So because you could tell it's intact since the 60s, because that one's from 1964. So you have to look at the staple and see if it has rust on it. If it doesn't really look new. So, and same thing with papers. You have to know like what's the material, what it's made out of. Now I will show you what's the difference, because I have a reproduction of a JFK paper, how to fake that as well, especially if it's like, if it has like spots, or if it has something that's over, or the paper just feels very differently than what I have, because I have a let me see, I have a fake JFK paper, which a friend gave to me. I'll show you that. I'm gonna put the camera down for a sec. Okay, so this is my fake JFK paper. It's from July 23rd, 1963, and it talks about the assassination of JFK. And at first I thought, oh, my friend actually gave this to me, and at first I thought, oh, this is really cool, this is nice, I noticed that it was awesome. But it just looked weird. The paper felt, it really wasn't, it was just weird, and the date says November of 2003 right there, so that's the big thing that didn't look. And the pictures just looked odd to me. Just looking at these dots, and it just looked strange compared to what I saw on a paper. It just looked weird. It's odd. If you look at Lee Harvey Oswald's face, it was just weird. And I looked at it, and you could tell. I'm gonna open it for you, so I show what I mean. You probably don't see it on the stuff right here. So it just looked weird. It was odd, and the pictures, if you look at Lee Harvey Oswald's face, he has like dots all over him, and I could just tell that this was a reproduction. This was fake, and I could tell it was fake. So this is a really good use to tell that this is not real, this is fake, and I use to show people how you could fake a fake newspaper. But a real paper like this is from the 20s. I don't have a. Actually, I do have a real JFK paper. I'll show you in a sec. This one is a real JFK paper, and you don't see the pictures look alright. It doesn't. You don't see those dots. You don't see any of that. So I just knew that that was weird, and I could just tell that's a reproduction. That's one of the things I could tell from a reproduction of a newspaper to an actual paper. Now, if a paper, if it's from the 1920s, if it's really white, the New York Times or the Chicago Tribune only does this. I think a couple of newspaper companies that does it too. They would use archival papers. Now, what archival papers are is the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune or any kind of other newspaper company, would actually try to make them for a very long period of time, especially back in the 20s and 30s when there was no computers and stuff like that. I mean, there was computers, but like not the computers that we use like now. But back like in the 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s, they would actually make it very strong, to make it like it was back then, so it can last for a very long time. But if you get they're really rare to get your hands on, archival papers. I would say Timothy Hughes sells archival papers. Um, New York Times and Chicago Tribune, but those are real papers. They're just archival papers, so they are meant to stay for a long last period of time. So that's that. So I wouldn't be surprised if I have something from 1934 and it's like super white like that, because it might be an archival paper. If the pictures look weird, like I showed you in that JFK paper, then I was like, all right, yeah, this is fake. But yeah, so it's really easy to preserve something like this, and for me, it's fun to preserve old newspapers and magazines because you really look into the history of them, and it's really really cool what people buy, what was the news during the time, and the advertisements, and it's just amazing. It's just a huge time capsule for me to look through these things. So that's how you preserve a paper, in my opinion. So I hope this really helps you from other newspaper collectors, any paper collectors, or people that want to. This could be a beginner, that people that want to collect something like this. Um, is a really really good option. So I hope this helped you out, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.